about?
It is, reluctantly. Because I don't know, I do find it really difficult to work on Zoom. I think production in a way is easier because you can kind of work on stuff and then get feedback and go back and forth that way. But in terms of actual Zoom sessions, which I've now done a lot of, it's usually either amazing or a complete disaster. Like there's no middle ground. The middle ground is gone with Zoom sessions. You don't ever have like an okay session. And some I've found really tough, especially with people that I haven't worked with before. I think if you don't have that existing relationship, if you haven't written together before, if it's a new artist, it's really difficult to establish that environment where you can create, I guess.
Yeah. It's like there's no like social lubrication.
No,
and you got to just, I don't know.
Yeah. And you miss those moments that, you like go and get a cup of tea, or it's a lot less chill. Like it's just very kind of
like all business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that sucks.
But there have been some good Zoom sessions I've done, totally. And I was very resistant to it. I think I was too optimistic. Like the first lockdown that happened, I was like, no, I'm not going to do any Zoom sessions. I'll just wait till it's all done and work in person. I don't believe in that. How can songwriting possibly work that way? And obviously that was never going to work the longer it went on. So I gave in. Some have been really cool, and actually some fun things that come out of it is because of the lag that you get. Like people often hear a melody fall on a different part of the bar, and actually sometimes that can create new ideas.
Interesting.
Yeah, but only recently I've started to do more normal in real life sessions, and it's just been so great. I've missed it so much.
It's crazy how much we crave that social interaction.
Yeah.
Really, it makes you feel like a human again. I was going to ask about like vocals and like doing stuff from home. Are a lot of the artists that you're working with like doing things at home and like crappy USB mics?
That's another thing I find hard. Because firstly, it's just it makes the whole process so much longer because you are waiting on the artist to send you the vocals.
Oh my God.
Which I also pointed out is what they usually are waiting on the producer to send them the track. So this is how they feel most of the time.
Right.
But yeah, also because I feel like I'm really happy with my setup in my studio, and I've like optimized it for recording great vocals, and I'm used to just having everything come in exactly how I want it. So I know exactly what to do with it. And then in lockdown, when people are recording their own vocals, it's a challenge, and it's a different challenge every time.
Yeah. It's like for me, I would only want to record myself because that's what I do. Like you know what I mean? Like if I was to do a singing performance or something, but for most artists, I feel like it's like super uncomfortable to record yourself and to produce your vocal takes. I feel like most artists get a lot from the producer in the room, and
yeah, definitely. In terms of performance, I think people, it really improves a lot of the time. It improves an artist's performance to have that feedback. I mean, I occasionally record myself, and I really don't like the process of recording myself, and I'm sure many artists feel the same. But yeah, and then I don't know, I guess a lot of the time I'm receiving vocals that not in any way their fault. They haven't necessarily done it wrong, but there's a lot of room noise, or it's just like it doesn't sound very dry, or there's little glitches, or yeah, it just creates a lot more work to make it sound good.
Yeah, totally. I don't envy that. I did a song recently where there wasn't budget to do everything in-house, and they took the track back and did it like harmonies in like little home studios and stuff. And luckily it was harmonies and not the lead vocal, because I was able to it's much easier to make it work if it's like a harmony and you could just tuck it in and you don't necessarily hear the room noise. I was like, if this was a lead vocal, we'd be screwed. But actually, as a harmony, it's not bad. I can make it work. It's rough,
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll come back,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive that a lot of artists have been forced to
learn
that aspect of production, and I think that can only be a good thing. Especially, I'm always encouraging artists to learn production, even if they don't want to be a producer. I think it can really expand your creativity.
Yes.
But one of the first things that I did start doing in real life was actually vocal sessions, because in the UK, technically, it was only in the first lockdown that everything closed completely. And then after that, businesses could operate only if they can't be done remotely, which technically studios is one of those. So, and also my studio has like a vocal booth, so it's not like they're singing in the room. I feel like it's like the risk can be managed in terms of COVID safeness. So yeah, that was one of the first things I pushed to start doing again. For that reason, I just think the vocal is just so important, like the most important thing, in my opinion, in the track, at least in pop music. And I just found that a lot of the recordings I was getting weren't to my standard. But I mean, a lot of people, if they're going for that lo-fi cool thing, it's completely fine. But I prefer the pristine, amazing sounding pop vocals.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's I like a good sounding vocal. I hate hearing like a crappy room in the microphone. Once you compress it, you're done. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Do you ever feel like you have to balance the creative vision, like with the artists you're working with? Like, do you have to like and make sure that you're on the same page?
It depends how much you want to push back, I guess. Like, I think an artist sometimes will think they know what they want, and then you deliver on that and it's not what they want, and it can be quite a frustrating process. And I often like to throw a bit of a curveball in at first, at least try in the early stages, and be like, hey, I know you wanted to sound like Charlie Puth or whatever, but I think this would work, and just see whether they like it or not. And sometimes they definitely don't, and you then just go back to the original brief. But I think there are ways that you can kind of get them to listen to stuff with an open mind and say, hey, I just wanted to try this. I think it could be really cool. Because I think ultimately, like, if an artist comes to you and says, I want to sound like this, I want to sound like a reference track, they're never going to sound original. And so I really try and push people to not sound like what already exists. And if someone's coming with a lot of references, it's not necessarily gonna. It can always sound great, but it's not necessarily gonna sound unique.
Yeah.
And also I try and push back as well in terms of arrangement. And if it's a song that I haven't been part of the writing process, I guess I'm not necessarily going to songwrite, but I'll maybe edit quite drastically and be like, this section's too long, let's see how it sounds, completely chopping it. And I think like it's ultimately always good to try stuff. And if the artist just puts their foot down and says no, then at least you've tried.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to have an open mind. It's hard to have an open mind, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to like see things that could be different than the way you would imagine it.
Yeah.
It's like I used to struggle with sending mixes off for mastering because it's like, oh, it's going to come back completely different than my mix, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you have to like let go of some things to really to get better, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I feel that with
you
mastering.
have to like educate artists sometimes.
It's always quite scary, a scary moment where you're like, oh, it's out of my control now.
Yes, totally. Maybe it's because I'm like a firstborn child. It's like, I feel like I always have to control all these things, but I'm slowly trying to let go. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do anything to keep yourself creative? Like I know there are days where we just want to get in the studio and work, but there are also days where it's just like I don't have energy for this. Do you do anything to kind of keep yourself inspired and with good energy?
Yeah. I'm sure many people have felt this way, but like since the pandemic, it's something I've definitely struggled with. I was probably overworking myself before the pandemic happened and just like cramming in sessions. And I was so used to a very, very fast pace of life. And then it slowed down completely. And now I just can't get back to like where I was before. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it was not a healthy balance. But something I started this year to kind of keep my creativity up actually is my friend started a little WhatsApp group with about 15 people, and it's called 52 Songs. And the idea is that we all have to turn in a song in whatever form however bad every week. And it's not necessarily like about feedback, like it's not critiquing, it's just like accountability and kind of hyping each other up. And that's been so great for my creativity, actually, because some weeks I haven't had sessions in the diary because everything's so much slower, but I still have to turn in something for this group. And it's forced me to, like I mentioned before, like solo write, which is something I've not done in years. And I've been really surprised with what I've come up with. And it's really opened up a lot of kind of creative ideas for other sessions that I can bring those ideas like to work with other artists. And I think it's just like keeping in the practice of writing, producing regularly, which
having a deadline, having
I'm definitely someone that will put stuff off until I have a deadline, definitely.
That's why this podcast gets published every week. It's because I have a deadline. And kind of kept me going through the pandemic also. That's another story.
Yeah, it's good to
I definitely relate to that.
It's definitely good to like force yourself to do that. And so did you start this podcast last year?
Oh no, this is pre-pandemic. This is I started this in 2019 actually.
Oh wow, cool.
But this was like my project in the pandemic that kind of kept me going. You know what I mean? It was like
it's good to
a passion
have
project,
something to do. And like a lot of these songs for the 52 Songs project, they don't. It's also quite refreshing to not have to write for a particular purpose or a reason or a particular artist. And it's really pushed me to like look inward and kind of work on my craft in that sense. And then another thing I've never thought I would get into is exercise. So, I mean, obviously, like being in a studio a lot of time, you're just sitting down. But
oh boy, yeah,
I got into yoga in the pandemic, which I feel like is a basic thing that everyone did, and just started watching yoga with Adrian. But I've kept it up, and it's really helped actually. I feel like it's something that I'll try and fit in before I leave to go to the studio, because it opens up my mind a bit creatively. And it's just, it's good to get you into the zone, I feel, if you've like moved around a bit before you.
Yeah, I'm at a point now where it's like, okay, I need to get back into this exercise game. The first lockdown, my wife and I, we were doing like exercise like at least 2 or 3 times a week or something. And it was like, that was like the first lockdown. The second lockdown, like we didn't do anything. It's like
I
there's
feel like a
different
lot of people
stages.
follow that pattern. Like, the first lockdown, I feel like I was pretty healthy, and then the second and third was like the opposite. Jump food all the way.
Yeah, and the third lockdown in Israel was like, it wasn't as long as your lockdown, but it was like, I don't know, it was like never going to end. We only got out of it because of our vaccines. Like literally, it was like this, explosion of coronavirus and vaccines at the same time.
That's definitely kind of where we're at the moment in the UK as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. Yeah, hold on, you're almost done. But it's exercise. It's like I'm feeling it. Like it's been too many like months at a time, just like always in front of the screen and
and I think maybe it's something that as I've got older as well, I'm not like, I don't know, I just used to be able to eat whatever I wanted and not do any exercise, and that would be fine. And now I'm like feeling the effects of that if I don't look after myself. And
for sure.
And ultimately, like it's a bit of a cliche, but you can't like create from nothing. You have to like fill up your well first before you can kind of be creative for other people. And it is quite, if I have a good intense session, it's very, very draining, and I'll come away absolutely shattered. And so you need to kind of make sure that you have those days in between where you, even if it's not a day off, like just do things that are a little less like labor intensive in terms of creativity. So like, I don't know, I'll have days, so I'm in a studio share, so the days that I'm not in a studio, I'll work from home and maybe tune vocals, or the stuff that isn't like super zapping of my energy.
Yeah, totally. The session days can be super exhausting. I don't know. People used to, like, people talk about the glory days of, like, 6 days in a row, like up till